into different spheres to encounter the others, okay, and try to bring different experience and also to explore the limits of experience. Like for example, the experience of shock or pain or whatever it is. But in those first, let's talk about the films. I think those are great images, great movement. But I've been thinking, in this film, who are the subjects? Who are doing the thinking? The philosophers. Even though you can say that it is a purely linguistic philosophy, but apparently, for example, the woman who's being bound by the rope, right? Who's the subject? Right? You are the subject. You are the director, and you created the image for the audience to watch. But who is doing the philosophical thinking? Apparently not the woman, not the actor. So she is not the actor. And for the other group dancing, group movement, I was thinking philosophical, practical philosophy should mean philosophy in action. Or philosophy in encountering the other. Philosophy not just in concept, in words, but it emerged in our encounter with the other, and also encountering our own limits that we are shaken, right, out of ourselves. And so for those, the laboratory could be the words, and not in a confined space, struggling with the concept and trying to bring out something. Because what is within the body? Unless there is an experience, encounter with the other, with a word, with the difficulties, and all over different. Otherwise, it could be just like a shamanistic practice. Try to bring something, some movement out of ourselves. But then there's no word. Where's the word? So, so that is why I was thinking. So, in that laboratory, what encounter? What's the experience? What in the laboratory, in the rehearsal, in all the movements? What encounter?
What is
what are they encountering?
Encounter. Yes.
What is the word within the lab?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is not different from the lab here, right?
Okay.
It's so what new image that's been created? What new concept? Unless they experience something. They experience something, they created their own image through their body, their corporeal experience and their body movement. And that should not be something like a trance or shamanistic action, right?
No.
So that is my major question. So I actually would very much support whatever you quoted or compiled in your text concerning this practical philosophy. In that way, documentaries, films, poetry, literature, painting, and theater, they could all be philosophy because they have encountered the world, they try to bring something into the text through different media. It could be words, it could be movement, it could be color and others. So their philosophical thinking is presented through their action of creation, their action of composition, their action of whatever media they are trying to control. So like a talk, right, or Emily Dickinson, and like all other actors or painters, they are doing some sort of philosophical thinking, solving the problems they are thinking, and through the solution of their art. So it's not necessarily putting some people in the lab, trying to ask them to meditate the words, the concept. That would be very difficult, right? So that
No.
is my puzzle.
No, a remark, a slight remark. I cannot and I have not, how to say, describe you all the details of the project, which is a problem, but I had to tell you what is the how to say, the theoretical context in which all these problems have a meaning. Because if you see a project without this context and without see the laboratory itself as a project, as an experimentation, you can see an exhibition of students, a performance of students, perhaps someone say okay, perhaps someone say good, perhaps someone say nonsense. It's not the point. The point is that in the frame of the question, what is practical philosophy? What could be practical philosophy? Because it's not a question which is answered definitively, or which is answered in the same way. And there are persons that understand practical philosophy in one way, and another on another way, other on another way. And so I need to create a space of work on this question, how we can define, put the question, what is practical philosophy? We don't know what is practical philosophy. We put the question, and so different actors from different places could help us to think it or understand it. And then if, for example, someone who is a painter would say practical philosophy is, and I am a philosopher and I'm shocked because nothing of this is philosophy, then I can speak with him and try to understand for him and for me what is the difference between painting and philosophizing through painting or with painting or on painting. This is different things to do. So there is a confusion, and on the other hand there is the tendency of, on behalf of philosophers in the universities, because philosophy is in the universities. We must admit it. The philosophy which out the universities is like psychology of the like philosophy like psychology like
Secular.
Secular. Yes, it's not really philosophy. So let's say.
Could you define philosophy in your own terms?
Hmm?
Could you define philosophy in your own terms?
Nobody can define philosophy in philosophy in general. In my terms, philosophy is a way of thinking, and then I must think what is thinking, of course. And thinking, it's thinking, it's through language, through text, through body, through encounters, through everything in the world. So philosophy is one way to think. It's not the only way, and perhaps it's a hard way to think, because there is no return back. Once you start to do so, you enter. And of course, the problem or the difference of philosophical thinking is that, Alain could say also, is that we are obliged to work with concepts. This is the traditional tool of philosophy. This is till now. I don't know in the future. I don't know in the future in what sense the people will use the language, in what sense people will be with their bodies. Till now, philosophy is made with concepts and language. But so we have a particular way of thinking, the concepts, and with language. But this definition for me is not quite satisfactory. The thing that even a philosopher cannot precisely say in a way that all all subjects can understand what is philosophy is because exactly philosophy has the concept and the language. If philosophy came out of concepts and language, so it's like a cruel experiment.
Now, could I say that philosophical thinking or philosophy is a mode of thinking that one comprehend like metaphysics. Physics, okay, the things happen, the event or ongoing things, and then we think it at another level and to think of the logic or the whatever it is, okay, the formation, and you come up with your own image to explain, or your own language to explain how it came about. Right? But that language, as you say, you don't want to be limited with this linguistic frame. You want to use.
I want to understand.
Yeah, and you want to incorporate your corporeal experience into your thinking, and also maybe, I don't know, into your expression of your philosophical thinking. So these are two ways, right? You incorporate your corporeal experience, and also you use your body to express your philosophical thinking as an image of your philosophy, right? But that language, what we say that is image, it could be linguistic, it could be filmic, it could be pictorial. As long as, it doesn't mean that there's a difference between empirical description or anthropological description. But if there is an image in the film, in the documentary, in the dance, that presents, like adults, right? They present their interpretation or their not illustration, but the logic they can perceive or conceive of something, then they present it through their work. So that could be philosophical, right? Unless we just turn back to language, right? But if we say concept is different ideas, and then we sum up into something that can explain, then we need this perhaps language.
Of course.
Right?
We cannot transcend for the time being what it constitutes philosophy itself, because philosophy also has a history. Its theories, its concepts, its tools, its methods. We cannot trespass this, we cannot be completely out of this legacy, because we understand, if we speak about philosophy now, we speak about philosophy based on some knowledge constructed about it, the history of philosophy itself, Western, other philosophy, I don't know. We start from a starting point, which is a knowledge about what is philosophy. But if you have a student, a child, who, and you don't say, we don't use the word philosophy because perhaps someone has expressed the word philosophy and he has some idea. You don't speak about philosophy, you don't say anything about it. And you start work with a child with all the possible meanings with him, because the child need the objects, need the fun, need the games, need the colors, need the paintings, need everything. With everything you can, we can use with your, in this counter with a child. So the question is, in what sense you can be sure that you do avec this child is philosophical or no? Of course, I put aside the question, but because why is important to do so? Because I'm a philosopher, I see some importance to see that. Because I do this. Otherwise, I could say nothing has a meaning, and a strong meaning, and I don't do anything. I do things that are. But let's say that I have a starting point, which is my concern about philosophy. So the practical problem is when someone does not know what is philosophy, and you don't say anything about philosophy with him, and you start working with him. What is philosophy, and in what sense these people and other people who observe you can understand, can recognize your philosophical gestures? In what sense? And this is a question that concerns me. I am very, I pay attention to not to give to my students for pre-knowledge about what we do, because I want to see them in what way they can or they cannot touch that this kind of way. And what is this kind of way? Always questioning my thinking, questioning my expression, questioning my habits, questioning my opinion, and always questioning and constructing, questioning, constructing, questioning, constructing, questioning. And finally we arrive in some point, and these films, it's one point. We could destroy the film. We could restart and make something else. We could discuss. It's a procedure which always restarting and restarting and restarting. It could be, in my opinion, I could destroy the laboratory and rebuild it. Because in fact you have reason why this object is philosophical. To understand why this object is philosophical, we must go to the procedure. All is the procedure that makes the object philosophical, and not the result itself.
Okay, but maybe it just I can stop here. But my curiosity is within the laboratory or within this film or this rehearsal, where is the word? Where is the word?
The word,
or
the word.
Yeah, right. The word. The moment. Their experience. Their experience with their family, with the difficulty with the subaltern people, or the difficulty or the hatred they experience with the politics.
The experience as during the exhibition, every student and me and myself and all the collaborators, we are there and we discuss about what the people see, and the students try, and this is the most risky and the most difficult and the most, how to say, they are really very stressed because they try to find the word in their own creation. And it's very difficult, and that is the point, the most delicate.
So, because I was curious about the procedure, then you are talking about the creative text for people to think. The text is the object of philosophy, but we don't know what is how they are made, the procedure they are produced.
It's so step by step and step by step. Every tiny detail, if we have the time, because it's procedure very complex and very difficult. But every tiny step of the student is discussed and understood under the question, and in what way you think this is a philosophical element or no. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's if you say it's like teaching also, and the creation and experimentation, and it's not very well based, because always the students wants to go to other spaces like psychology, like cinema, and so probably the person who has filmed this can tell you in this gesture is this discussion, in this gesture is this kind of thinking, in this gesture I have failed to approach the concept, in this gesture It's like theater. In so the philosophical office, it's not this that you have seen, it's the procedure after the exhibition also. And after the exhibition, and after the exhibition. And it's a working process.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not there, so I don't know.
But anyway, yeah,
Discussion.
The seminar will end at 9:30, so we still have about 10 minutes for the questions.
I'm Greek, I can stay till midnight. And then we can go to eat something. And if I were young people like you, I should say, and after we can dance.
I think we have some people back there, or should ask with questions.
Thank you so much. The questions are precious for me because it's fundamental. It's fundamental. It's fundamental.
But maybe I'll end. But 你们后面来的朋友，
那个你们现在可以用中文问啊，中文问我尽量帮你翻译。
Okay. Okay. So let me take things from a different angle. It's not very difficult to teach philosophy. You just need to be a good specialist, to have a good voice, pleasant voice, and to speak correctly. What's much more difficult is to teach philosophically, that is, in a philosophical way. And this is where the interesting discrepancy appears, because from what I just said derives that most of the people who teach philosophy are not philosophers, because they do not teach philosophically, which means that they just convey contents, that is, theories, authors, concepts, doctrines, etc. So what I mean by that is that when you teach philosophy, if you want to do it philosophically, what matters is not the content, it's what you call the rest. You know, the rest from Henri Lefebvre, with the title of strange book by Henri Lefebvre, the sum and the rest. What matters when you teach philosophy, if you want to teach philosophically, is the rest. What is the rest? The rest is some sort of what Deleuze calls affect, an affect. Mm-hmm. The affect of different things, but mostly I would say what Foucault calls criticability of things. That is, you assume, you start from that notion, the fact that things have to be criticized and can be criticized. So what matters is what is left of the teaching. This is very paradoxical, but it's just like that. So the affect has something in common with style. So what matters is not the fact that you are a good specialist of this or that author, because many people can make a good course on, let's say, Foucault or Descartes. Not so many, but okay, people can do. What is much more rare, I would say, is the ability to convey the affect, which makes that people who are listening, okay, are pushed or are like feel something which will make of them criticize us too. So that means if you, let's say, think on philosophy in these terms, you have to assume that teaching, the simple fact, the very fact of teaching and philosophy do not really match. Because when you teach, you always have to convey something. And in fact, there is some sort of tension, contradiction between both. So, how to convey philosophy? By teaching in a way, because it has to be taught. It's the most common way of conveying philosophy, but by destroying the very fact of teaching, by deconstructing teaching. And this is where, in this difference between philosophy as something which has to be taught and philosophy as creation, as the would say, that what was the core of your topic, that is practice, the practical dimension appears, because basically what has to be conveyed, it goes through the style, and style is a gesture. And this is where the notion of performance appears. You have to perform something. If you just, teach, handing over, there is no performance, there is no style, and basically you always have to admit that basically what you're conveying, people who are listening to you, they could find it in a book, and maybe in a better condition, just by reading. So this is not what matters. What matters, so this is why I insist on that notion of style. What matters is the style, and style is rare. And so, and the last thing on that, one can teach philosophy in a way which is not philosophical at all. But conversely, one can teach many other things philosophically. You can teach, let's say, political sciences in a disastrous way and in a philosophical way. It's up to you. I mean, or maybe not, but depends on people, let's say.
So?
So,
教授，我刚刚有好奇一个问题，因为我们刚才在看这个 video 的分享的时候，然后因为我观察到他看这个影片以后，他会不经意的流下眼泪，所以这个是他在触景，
你刚刚注意到吗？
对对，所以他是触景生情呢，还是感动，还是他重回情境当中？我是很想好奇提问他一下，可以请他分享。
Oh, okay, yeah. He observed that when you projected the film, and it seems that you tear.
Yes, always.
Always. So
even now, when I'm speaking about it.
He's wondering what kind of affective feeling that made you feel.
I remember the procedure. The pain in my body, and the pain of the doubt that I am doing philosophy. I am not sure that it's philosophical, but the question affects me, makes me feel very strongly, because exactly putting this question is something that matters for me. It's not outside of me, it's something that matters of me. And every single bit of these films reminds me all the way round, and of course the failures of this way. Because I am not really certain that this laboratory needs to exist, or if my way of thinking is a philosophical way of thinking. If the project are good, or if I am legitimate to do so, or if and if, and I am very sensible to the fact that I have a privilege to create something like a laboratory, and I don't have the means, and I don't have the strength